Howdy Beans, sometimes this podcast contains adult content, like the odd and maybe a few, so view discretion is advised, but I always say, enjoy the show nonetheless. Howdy Beans, and welcome to another spooky, terrifying and horrible episode of the Howdy Beans podcast. Hope you're doing dreadful and horrible and terrible this time of year. It is now spooky season and it's time to get creepy, adult and a little bit naughty. So if you're ready for all of that, let's get into it, shall we? So today, we're going to be looking at Critters 3, or as it is known also as Critters 3, You Are What They Eat from 1991. But before I get into all of that and more, I want to do with housekeeping, because I like to keep my house nice and clean. Even though it is cold and dreary outside and it's spooky season, I like to have a few cobwebs up, a few spiders, a couple of zombies in the cupboard, the standard. So make sure that you follow me on Twitter at howdybeans_pod. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, I really want to hear your feedback, so leave your comments down below. Also, if you listen to this on Spotify, you can now also leave comments, so make sure you write your comment down below, what you think of the episode. Don't forget to follow the episode on Spotify and leave a rating. And brand new for this year, or for this season, I'm on TikTok now. Yay! I'm doing what the kids do. I'm down with the trumpets, as they say. And I'm on TikTok, so I'm still figuring things out as of recording this episode. So hopefully when you go follow me there at Howdy Beans, the Howdy Beans podcast, I'll have more episodes out and I'll figure out what it is I'm actually doing there. But as of recording this, I'm still figuring out. But if you want to go check me out on Twitter, then by all means, I'm not Twitter, on TikTok, then by all means, please do. Anyway, as I said, we're looking into Critters 3. It is spooky season now, and as I like to do with every spooky season, I like to let loose. Normally, when any other time of the year, I am very sort of prim, proper. I don't tend to swear unless I have to. I'm very sort of behaved. I keep my P's and Q's, and, I'm very, very polite and sort of positive and nice. But because it's spooky season, and as you heard at the beginning, that's another new feature as well for this month. Adult content is advised because I do like to let loose during spooky season. So you will hear a lot of boobies and titties and shit and piss and fuck. So you had the discretion bit at the beginning. You decided not to listen and you're still here. So I don't apologize, but at the same stage, I do apologize. It's like when you're mopping the floor and you let a wet floor sign out, where there's a blame, there's a claim, but also where there's a sign, there's no crime. So it's one of those sort of things. So I just wanted to give that bit of a warning. But now that's out of the way, as I like to do every year with spooky season, I like to look into B horror movies. I like to look at the very cheesy, silly sort of movies from the 70s and 80s and even sort of the 90s, when horror movies were just fun. They didn't always have to be terrifying. They were just gory and visceral and just downright silly, but because they were so bad, they were so good that you loved them. I've looked into Chopping Mall. I did a review on Cottage, which is brilliant, from 2008, which is kind of my most popular Halloween spooky episode of all time, which I'm really glad for. And then I did Eight-Legged Freaks last year. I did The Blob. What else have I done? I've done the first two Critters movies, which I'll talk about my sort of history with Critters in a minute. And I've done a lot of things for spooky season, so it's always my favourite time of year. And also, it means I can wear a cardigan and I can drink hot chocolate with cinnamon in it, and I can really kind of get into the festive sort of spooky mood. So I am actually enthralled. I'm so excited, and let's just get into it, shall we? So, my history looking into the Critters movies. They've spoiled me, to be honest. They really have spoiled me. And I'll explain why. So, for anybody who's new to the podcast who won't know, last Christmas, I gave you my heart, sorry. Last Christmas, I reviewed Gremlins. And don't be wrong, I don't dislike Gremlins, but it's not always ever been my favourite. I'll watch it if it's on TV, especially during Christmas and Halloween. I'll put it on, and I do enjoy Gremlins. It's not, in my opinion, one of Joe Dante's best movies. That will be Small Soldiers. But it is a good film, overall. I know a lot of people love it, but for me, it's just a good average film. But since watching the Critters movies, specifically Critters 1, I've been spoilt with like little creatures that like to kill and sort of tear and rip and be sort of just cause carnage. Critters 1, in my opinion, is better than Gremlins. Again, I know people will disagree with me on that one, but because I have seen what you could do with this genre, with this idea, with this concept of little creatures wreaking havoc, that's what I'd love from Gremlins. Really, is more the visceral. And I know it's more of a horror sort of family movie. It's kind of, I'd say Gremlins is one of them sort of like introductory horror movies for kids. So like if you want to get your kids into horror, you'd make them watch Gremlins. But when they're a bit older, you put Critters on, sort of thing. But it has spoiled me. Like I can't really watch Gremlins now. I'm thinking like I've seen this done better. And that, again, that's my opinion. I know there's probably people that really disagree with me out there. But it has spoiled me. As for my sort of experience and my feelings on the first two movies, Critters 1 is the best, in my opinion. It's just better. It's funny. It's silly. It's naughty. It's very visceral, full of guts and gore. It's just great. And then Critters 2 was a bit of a downgrade. It wasn't bad. It just was like you put me on a pedestal of like, this is really, really good. And then Critters 2 went the way of Gremlins 2, which is they got rid of all the horror and they just went pure comedy and silliness, and out there sort of humor, which is, again, it's not terrible, but it was like not what I was expecting. So I'm kind of hoping that Critters 3 today and, you know, the rest of the Critters movies go back to that sort of silly, campy, but very sort of gory sort of humor, like from very much from the first movie. So that is my hope for today. As for the movie synopsis, so it goes as follows. So it's only short. It goes, when their car tire pops, a family of three stop at a rest stop where a man warns them about carnivorous aliens on the loose. Unbeknown to the family, one of the aliens lays its eggs on the underside of the car just before they drive away. That is all we're getting for the synopsis. Yeah, it's not great, I know, but that is the synopsis of this movie. As for the cast, so this cast is surprisingly interesting. So we have little Leo. Leo, see, that's if you've watched, like, if you get that reference, then We Can Be Friends. That's from Austin Powers. I think Austin Powers 2. When he goes, Leo. Every time I hear Leonardo DiCaprio, I have to do that. But little Leo, this is his first film debut. This is the first movie he was ever in. So little Leonardo DiCaprio, which I never thought I'd ever be saying that about a movie like this, but, you know, everybody has to start somewhere. Josh Calvin as Clifford, Amy Brooks as Annie, Christina Cousins as Johnny, Joseph Cousins as Johnny. I'm guessing they played the twins. Oh, I recognise that kid. He was the little boy from Kindergarten Cop, the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger falls in love with his mother. Dominic, that's it. I didn't know they were twins. More you know. Then we have William Dennis Hunt as Briggs, Nina Axlord as Betty Briggs. Obviously, I've already mentioned Leo. Don Keith Opper as Charlie McFadden. And then Jeffrey Blake as Frank. And that is your cast. As for the production, so this one was a bit difficult actually finding anything on the production of this movie. But what the sort of little that I did find, I still kind of think is kind of very interesting. So Critters 3 was produced from February 27th to June 15th, 1991, with filming occurring simultaneously with its sequel, Critters 4. So they filmed these movies back to back to save costs, to keep the budget low of this sort of sci-fi horror film. Both were directed by Christine Peterson and featured Leonardo DiCaprio's film debut in this movie, with the entire apartment building interior built in a Los Angeles grocery store due to budget constraints. Production was managed by New Line Cinema and O Films, with the Cheeto brothers handling the iconic Critters effects. And that is it for what I could really find of this movie. I did watch the trailer because I had no idea what I was getting into with Critters 3. I didn't know where it was going or the idea behind it or the concept. Because all I know is that they did a farm, they did a town, and now they're in the big city. And I'm starting to feel, and I'm getting this sort of feeling that this is going to be my Leprechaun. You know, I haven't watched the Leprechaun movies yet. I know I need to watch them every St. Paddy's Day. So I'm going to watch Leprechaun. I'm going to review Leprechaun. I never do. Maybe next year. But this is going to be my Leprechaun. You know, this is going to be that one series that I just follow constantly because I just love them. Even though the second wasn't great, I just adore these little crates and I think they're fantastic. But I watched the trailer and it seems interesting. It seems like, again, more hijinks ensue. And from the trailer, again, I know trailers can be deceiving, But from the trailer, it looks like it's going back to its roots. It looks like it's going back to the first movie, where it's a bit more horrifying. Like, you've got this apartment building and you've got the Kreutzer inside it. And that could lead for many scenarios, really, because, again, there's tons of people that live in apartment blocks. So you could have the main hub, the main family, like the main characters, and they're dealing with this. And then you've got all the other characters. You could have an old lady. You can have you could have a family, two people, like a couple living on their own, or you get a family with loads of kids, and one of them finds one and thinks it's a cat and eats their hand off or something. Like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head now, but there's a lot of potential for hijinks, for hilarity, for comedy, for gore, for silliness as well. Because, again, I'm not against the silliness. I just want it to be a bit more sort of naughty silly. You know what I mean? I want the swears. I want the gore. I want the visceralness, really. Again, this is what we hope from Critters, and this is what the Critters one has done to me. It's like, I want more, but I didn't get it in the second movie, so I'm hoping we get it here now with the third film. We will see. And hopefully my little alien friends will come back as well. I hope the aliens come back. So we will see. I've got my fingers crossed. But yeah, that is it really for the introduction. I'm going to go off now and watch Critters 3. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about some of my first impressions, the story, production design. Is it any better than Critters 1? Is it better than Critters 2? Who knows? But I'm excited nonetheless. So I'll catch you all in a second. And welcome back, everyone. So, Critters 3, what can I say other than it was brilliant? It was really, really good. Honestly, I'd go as far as to say, if I had to rank the trilogy, I know there's more than 3 movies, but if I had to rank the trilogy of the first 3 movies, of what order I would watch them, it'd be 1, 3, and 2. Simple reason behind that is the fact of, in the first Critters, it was very situational based. And what I mean by that, it was set in one location where you had the critters were attacking a family farm, and the family was then having to deal with it and to find a way to kind of survive, but also kill the critters as well. And I loved it for that, because it was spooky, it was creepy, but at the same stage, it had a bit of funniness and gore as well. And overall, like, it had a good balance of what you want from a cheesy B movie. In the second film, it went kind of the route of Gremlins 2, where it went a bit too silly, a bit too comedic. Like, there was gore, but like it just, I don't know. It's like that idea, like, because it's a sequel, it had to be bigger and better, but their idea of bigger and better was just make it more comedic and silly. And even though it was all right, it just went away from what I loved about the first movie. What I love about this movie, and why I put it underneath the first one, is that this film really goes back to its roots, goes back to the first film. And it's maybe because they're on a smaller budget, and maybe because they were sort of on a sort of small set and that sort of thing. But it really goes back to that idea of, you've got these people in a situation, and in this case, a small apartment block, that have an infestation of critters. And how do they survive that? Who dies first? How are they sort of killed and stuff like that? And it's a different situation, different characters, different people, all in one prime location, and the movie goes from there. And I really, really enjoyed it for that, because as I was watching, I was thinking, this is a lot better than it needs to be. Like, there's still the cheese, there's still the silliness and the campiness of it, but it feels like Critters 1. It feels like the movie that I loved and enjoyed in the first film, and that I wanted from the second one, to be honest. And I really appreciate it for that. What else can I say? It's fantastic. It is. It's brilliant. Like, obviously, I'll get onto the story in a minute, but I want to mention a few extra things as well, because I'm just impressed. First of all, Leonardo DiCaprio. You can tell he was going to be a star, because you watch him in this and you think, oh, he's a young kid, he'll phone it in. But no, he actually brings in a pretty good, convincing performance. Even for a child actor, you're watching and thinking, that kid's going places. You know what I mean? You can really think of, like, 'cause this was 1991. So near the end of this decade, he was doing Titanic, which really propelled him to stardom. And well, we just know the story now of Leonardo DiCaprio. But you watch this movie and you think, yeah, he has it. Yeah, like he wasn't phoning it in at all. Like generally, this kid or adult now was really really talented. Also, as well, what I love about this movie, it feels like so many different movies as well. Because when it first starts, and again, we'll get into the story a bit now. But when it first starts, I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh God, here we go." It feels very cheesy B movie sort of thing, where you have that cheesy setup where you got the kids and the dad are coming back from vacation, and he gets a flat tire, and I'm thinking, "Okay, where's this going?" And then they're playing in the woods, and then it goes from very very cheesy to feeling like a Goosebumps episode, like a missing Goosebumps um, TV episode, really, because they're playing frisbee. Leonardo DiCaprio comes out of nowhere. He's like, "Kid, watch it. There's a big cliff there. You know, you're going to fall off." It's not a big cliff, but you know, it's a little bit of a muddy verge. But if he falls, he would hurt himself. And the little kid is, "Oh, thank you very much. You know, do you want to play frisbee?" So they're all playing. Young little Leo, or Josh in this movie, throws the frisbee too far into the woods, so all the kids go investigate. I'm thinking, "Oh, here we go. Is this movie going to be brave enough to kill these kids, or is it not going to do it?" Spoilers, it doesn't do it. But we meet Charlie from Critters 1, Critters 2, which I'm really glad Charlie makes a comeback, to be honest. We meet Charlie, and he's very creepy. He's very weird. You know, you can tell that he's been out in the woods hunting critters since like the events of Critters 2. And it is a bit creepy, to be honest. And this is why I say it's very much like Goosebumps, because he comes out of nowhere. Like, he literally pops out of the ground like a zombie, and he's talking to these kids. It's like, and like in this moment, and it's really well done, to be honest. Maybe a bit too long, but it's really well done, where as he sort of explains to them about like his experience with these critters, there's a flashback, and it recounts the events of the first movie and second movie. So really, you don't even have to watch the first and second movie to watch this movie. It recounts it very well, of like something happened in Grover Bend, loads of people died, you had these little critters, these little creatures that were killing everybody, and you've got to be careful. And he gives this little lad, the little kid from Kindergarten Cop, he basically gives him a crystal of like, if it grows green, that's when you know you need to be worried. And the little kid takes it, and they go off in the camper van, and then they go back home. And while they're on, just before they get into the camper van, some like I love how these movies does this. It does it like a POV, point of view of the critters, and the camera goes down and sneaks around in the grass, and then jumps up and then hides in like the wheel arch of their camper van, which again I really, really love. And I'm not going to recount the whole story, but they get to their apartment complex, and you meet the characters there. And there's a guy there, and his name's Frank, and he's the maintenance worker. Now, this is where it goes from, and I have to laugh because it's funny, because there are many moments in this movie where it does feel like they've taken something from this movie, they've taken something from that movie. Not in a bad way, just the fact of it just feels like an homage to other films, other ideas, other movies at times, because it just made me giggle. So the first film feels like Goosebumps, and there are still moments throughout this movie where it feels like a Goosebumps missing episode, R.L. Stein sort of project. But there's another piece as well where you've got this guy called Frank, and he's an absolute douche. He's an absolute dickhead, right? He's a handyman, and he is an arsehole to everybody. He's like, "It's not my job. I ain't doing it." Like, the guy doesn't live in no more. I don't need to help anybody. And he's giving lip and cheek to all the members, and all the people in the sort of housing like hate him. And you find out quickly throughout the story, he is trying to get rid of them all. Like he's literally breeding rats to like hide and put into people's apartments. So like, you know, they'll leave. He is pretending like the elevator's broken. The elevator's not broken. He's just broken it, like turned it off, so like they have to walk them down flights of stairs. He's also a pervert. So you've got the laundry chute. So this one lady who's gets her underwear and that, and puts it down the laundry chute. Her name's Rosalie, and it should be a basket or something down there, but it isn't. He's just down there. He goes, "I love my job," and he starts like sniffing the underwear and all this kind of stuff. Real proper douchey, creepy sort of bloke. Anyway, he gets on the phone
to this guy, and he's like, yes, 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 yes. So I will get rid of them as soon as possible. And it turns into without batteries not included, where you've got the young lad in that one and Mr. Casey, and he's like, oh, don't worry, Mr. Casey, I'll get those people out of their apartment, then you can build your new home and all that. And then I'm sitting there thinking, this really feels like batteries not included, to be honest, which is another great movie. And then he basically gets his comeuppance. The critters, they run out and they creep out the wheel arch and they come down into the basement. And while he's there being a creep, sort of sniffing this woman's underwear, he gets up at her bra and he goes to touch her knickers, but he ends up getting sort of spooked. He hears something behind him, and as he looks behind him, a critter just jumps up and like takes a big chunk out of his arm. And I'm thinking, part of me kind of wants him to survive, because part of me was like, he's a dickhead and a douche. I kind of want him to die, but at the same stage, I want to, he's funny, so like I want to see him just a little bit longer, just to kind of see how he sort of takes it all, and then kill him off. But no, they kill him off pretty much very quickly. He's the first person to die. So he chucks that one critter off, throws it, and as he turns around, another one basically like clamps down on his chest, rips his chest to shreds, and then he's dead. And then while Rosie's there, she's getting some more laundry to put in the laundry chute. She opens it, and one of the critters is underneath where sort of her underwear was, and he looks up, and then he just looks at me with dessert, because she is a bigger woman. She is a bigger woman. She's eating a cake at the same time. There's a lot of fat jokes in this, to be honest, which is a shame, because Rosalie's a very sort of lovely character, lovely woman, but they make a lot of fat jokes to her in this one. And she goes down, and they try to kill her. And then there was one moment where there's a critter inside the washing machine, and Rosalie is like backing up slowly, towards it, because she can hear things. And I really wished it happened, because I could have made the joke. Now we know that critters eat arse. But that didn't happen, so I can't make that joke, even though I just made it. But it's not as funny because it didn't happen. But I thought it would have been funny, the critters eat arse. That's hilarious. But it didn't happen. But they do attack her. They bite her on the leg. They hit her with their tranquils. But one of the young girl, Annie, she manages to save Rosalie from happening. And then sort of our next goal. So not enough people. One of the sort of the downsides I have with this movie is not enough people die. Only 2 people really die. And don't get me wrong, they're both douches. They're both dickheads. They're both really bad people. So it doesn't really matter really that they died. It's just a shame that I would have liked more people to die. So you get the maintenance worker who's a douche, he dies, and then you find out that the guy that he was on the phone to, who he's working for to kick everybody out, was Leonardo DiCaprio, Josh, his stepdad. And you do meet him at the beginning of the movie, and again, he's a real piece of work, horrible bloke. And he's with Josh in the car, and he's like, oh, before I take you home, I've got to go deal with some trouble. And Josh's like, well, no, take me home. He's like, no, this is going to be your family business in the future. You come with me. So they go, and everybody's upstairs. They're all getting attacked by the critters, while sort of Josh and his stepdad are downstairs. And again, he's a real horrible person. And he basically says to Josh Josh is like, well, I thought you ended up having to pay all these people. And he's like, well, I do, by the law, by the government, but if they leave on their own accord, I don't have to pay them. So it all links into the fact of he's trying to get them to go, really. And this, again, it feels very much like batteries not included. And he goes into the cellar with Josh, and he cuts the landline so they can't make calls, or as he says, so they can't talk to their social workers, because he's a very up and tight, posh dickhead, really. And he hates anybody that's below him and poor. He thinks all rats and vermin. He's generally a piece of work. So it's good when he dies. And then he cuts the power as well. And then he goes upstairs with the torch. He's like, ding dong, it's your landlord, time to get out, sort of thing. And it's one of those of thinking, yeah, you can kill him. I don't want him to live anymore. Get rid of him. And he goes into one of the rooms because they've got a TV running, even though they turned the power off. And I can't remember this woman's name. She was a very famous baker in the US. And there was a TV show about her recently that I really, really loved. But I can't remember. She was a baker. And and she had a very soft tone, and she sort of thing, but not English, obviously American. I can't remember her name, but that's on in the background on the TV, and you just and I love it because in the thing she's just like doing this demonstration of how you trim and cut a chicken, and how you basically have to strip the meat from the bones, and you cut it from this and that, and you've got to remove all ligaments. And you've got these three critters sitting on this settee watching the TV, just mesmerised, like salivating. And obviously, Josh and he's sort of stepped out having arguments, and Josh goes, "Oh, I wish they would kill you. I wish you would die," and pushes him into the room, slams the door, and next thing you know, the critters turn around, see this, eyes go red, and then they just eat him, devour him. Josh is freaking out. He's like, "No, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Like, leave him alone. He's an arsehole, but like, he means well." Blah blah blah. And then a lady named Marcy, which I'll get onto in a minute, she's awesome, comes and helps him, opens the door, basically finds the dad half eaten, and the critters there, and they attack him, and then they have to sort of close the door, run. So like, there's only real two deaths, to be honest, and they are two douchey people, but I just wish there was more. Maybe it was the budget, maybe they couldn't afford so many blood and guts and gore. But it still has that tone. It still has that feeling of the first movie. It still feels very creepy at times. Not scary, just creepy, eerie. You hear little creaks, you hear little laughs, little giggles here and there, because you know that the critters are about. You don't know when they're going to appear, where they're going to jump out. You think, oh, they're outside the door, it's fine. And next thing you know, you open up the pantry doors and they're in the pantry somehow. Like, it doesn't make sense how it got there. It's just they're there. They can eat their way through anything. They are literally like rats, but like really, really sort of steroid rats, you know what I mean? And I just think it's brilliant, Then it goes from Batteries Not Included to Terminator 2, where you've got Marcia, who she's, to be honest, I don't know what the best word to explain it to us. You'd probably use the word tomboy, a very sort of very strong, independent woman that we'd probably use today. But she's very much like a blokey sort of woman. And she works for the phone company. It's a wonderful woman. And she turns into basically Sarah Connor when they're all in darkness. Next thing you know, you get like a bright light and you hear like a tss sort of noise. And there she is with a flare in her hand. And she saves the day and she saves them. And she's even dressed like Sarah Connor in a way, just about the headband. She's got the hair. She's got like the grey sort of crop top. She's got like the bottoms as well. She's got her phone company belt thing on her as well. She's got all these tools and weapons sort of things on her. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is Terminator 2 now. Like, we've gone from Goosebumps to Batteries Not Included to Gremlins to Terminator 2. Like, where can it go next, to be honest? So she ends up, they end up sort of escaping, and they all sort of get away. The dad's been tranquilized, so he's all happy as Larry. Rosalie, she's still tranquilized after being shot in the arse countless times. And then, like, you get to meet Mrs. Menges, who is the nice old lady in Billy Madison, Billy Madison's grandma, her. And the old guy as well, which I can't remember. I can't find him on the list here. But the old guy as well, her husband, is Ray Finkel's dad from Ace Ventura, which I love that as well. She expects him home any minute. The engine's running, but there's no one behind the wheel. That guy. Anyway, it just made me laugh. I'm trying to again, this is the problem. I was so enthralled in the movie, I didn't write any notes down, so I'm doing this a lot from memory. So Sarah Connor, they all escape. The critters are basically in this old lady's house. She's made pie and she's made chili and all that. So they're basically devouring all that while they make their escape. One of the critters attacks Marcia. She basically throws the flare into its mouth, so it just it spontaneously combusts from the inside, falls through the laundry chute, so it lands on all the underwear and clothes and starts a fire. So the building's now on fire, so now they've got to run away from the fire and from the critters as well. And then they're on the roof, and it turns from Terminator 2 to The Last Action Hero, but the beginning and the end of that movie. So if you watch The Last Action Hero, the movie begins where you've got the Arnold Schwarzenegger character. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's up there with the trench coat, raincoat guy with the axe, and he's got the kid on him, and he ends up shooting the raincoat guy, and as he falls, he pulls the young lad down, and the young lad does this old sort of like T-pose fall. same thing basically happens here in a way. I'm sitting there thinking, this is the last action hero, because um, you've got like all the critters have been killed up until this point. You've got this last critter who basically falls into bleach, and his one eye's all sort of shut, and his one bit of hair is all flicked. He's kind of like Spike from Gremlins 1. He's got this white tuft of hair. He's the last one to live. And he ends up doing this like sonic speedball thing where he gets into a ball and he just revs himself up really quickly. Goes to launch himself at the kid. Charlie's on the roof at this point because Charlie's come back into it. Charlie comes and saves the day, really. And Rosalie has this moment. She's like, she's all drugged up still, but she looks at Charlie and she's like, oh, and she pats Clifford, who is Annie's and Johnny, the sort of the young lad. He's kids. Dad, she's tapped him. She goes, oh, don't look, don't make it too obvious. Don't look. Who's that hunk man that's just come up who's just saved the kids? And like Cliff's looking, and he can't see it. And all of a sudden, it's like Dreamweaver, I believe. She's like really sort of like enthralled with him, which again that made absolutely laugh. And I love that they bring Charlie in to save the day. Like Charlie comes in and kills kills majority of the critters as well. You've got to have Charlie in these movies. He just makes them, to be honest. But anyway, so the last one left, he's on the roof. He's doing this big speedball thing, launches himself. Charlie runs out of nowhere, jumps in front of it, sort of takes the critter in his chest, but that then launches him off the building. It's funny because Charlie's kind of dressed like the bloke, like the trench coat guy from the last action hero. So as he goes off the building, his foot catches the young lad. The young lad falls off the building, does a big T-pose, and then they do this like slow-mo run where they go grab him. And luckily at the last minute, they manage to grab his arm, and Annie, his sister's trying to grab him and pull him up, and the dad comes out of nowhere, like semi-drugged up, but also semi-conscious, grabs him, pulls him up, and like it saves the day. And I'm sitting there thinking, it feels so much like it's one movie after the next. Like, I'm not saying it's copying, like it's more of an homage of like, it reminds me of again, it's a weird analogy, but it reminds me of Eight-Legged Freaks, where if you watch Eight-Legged Freaks, there's a lot of homages to the old style of horror movies, the old style of the cheesy B movies of times come and gone before, and I really appreciate that movie for that. And I really liked it here, to be honest, because I understand, because of budget and because they had to film this movie and the fourth film back to back, there's probably not a lot they could do. So I understand the limitations and, the reason why not there wasn't as much gore and wasn't as much deaths. But what I appreciate about this movie is the fact of, one of the upsides of having a small budget, perspective. When you have perspective, you can decide what you need and what you don't need. You can trim the fat. You can decide, well, you know what? I'd love to do this scene. I'd love to have this in it, but can we afford it? Do we have the time? Do we have the budget? No, we don't. All right, we're going to have to cut it out, and we're going to have to make do with what we have. And sometimes that can be a benefit, and sometimes it can't. In this case, it is a benefit because, like I said, it takes it back to the original movie, which is one location, really, a couple of characters. You put the critters into it. Hijinks ensue. People get killed. The dad's drugged up because he's because he's been pricked a couple of times. Rosalie, she's been sort of pricked, so she's all drugged up. You have the two old couple. The one lady, she's lovely, but it's like she's baking things while you've got her husband is the conspiracy theorist. He's about aliens and cover-ups and stuff like that. So that got links into the idea of these critters and aliens and stuff like that. And then you have Marcia, who is the phone line company lady, who is basically Sarah Connor. She's awesome. So yeah, I just think it's brilliant. I really, really do. And one thing that I love about the end of this movie is, like, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, the credits, okay, I'm about to turn it off. And I'm like, well, hold on a second, it's still going. Like, the credits are rolling, but it's still going. Like, Charlie is in the basement of the burnt out basement of this housing complex. What's he doing? Like, what's going on? And as he's looking around, he basically gets a buzzer on his communication thing. He freaks out and he throws it. And then a hologram comes out, and it's Ugg from Critters 1, Critters 2. And he basically, it sets up, I would imagine, Critters 4, because at the end it basically goes, Yeah, like Charlie's like, "Oh, Ugg, it's good to see you," and Ugg's like, "Oh, it's wonderful to see you, my friend." And like Charlie's like, what's the matter? What's up? Like, why are you calling? Like, I saved the day. Like, you don't have to come. Like, it's okay." And then Ugg is like, "Well, no, Charlie, like, you can't kill the critters anymore. Those two eggs, because Charlie finds two eggs in the basement. He said those two eggs are the last two eggs. You can't kill them anymore." Which makes no sense because the whole point of these bounty hunters was to basically kill and eradicate the critters. And they basically said to Charlie, like, you can't kill them. They're the last two eggs. Even if they hatch, you can't kill them. Even if it means that they're going to kill the whole species, human race. You're not allowed. It's against intergalactic law or something like that. A ship's coming to an incubator ship is coming. When it lands, put the eggs into the ship. And that's it. And then it just ends and it goes to be continued. So I would imagine that is going to be the events of whatever happens in Critters 4, which I'm looking forward to. But that's really the story. Like I said, the production and the art, like I said, it's very sort of cheaply done, but it just works as well. Like, you get the tenseness, you get the moments of creepiness because they're in the dark for most of it, and the woman's walking around with a flare, and the flares don't last very long, so she's having to walk around. It's just red and glow, and they've got glowing eyes, so you can't really see their eyes as you walk around. You're just seeing things like scritter around and here and there, and it's creepy, it's eerie, you know. And I just love this, the fact that they've just gone back to basics. And that's kind of leading me to my overall thoughts, to be honest, is the fact of, if I had to give them any sort of rating, I would say, like, watch Critters 1, watch Critters 3, then watch Critters 2. Even though I know sort of the events of Critters 2 kind of somewhat leads into Critters 3, I would still say watch 1, watch 3, because they feel like the same sort of movie. And then Critters 2, again, feels very silly, very sort of bigger budget sort of movie. But like I said, sometimes a smaller budget makes hindsight, makes you sort of see what you need and what you don't need. And they really just focused on not the horror, but like the spookiness of it, the creepiness of it, the suspense, because it does take a while before people start getting killed. It does take a while, but it's building up the tension. It's building up that wire of, like, eventually that spring is going to give. And it's the fact of, you can see, you know, they're there. All the other characters don't know they're there, but the audience knows they're there. You're just waiting for, when are they going to strike? Who are they going to strike first? And of course, it's the douchey maintenance man. I just wish there was more gore, but I understand why there isn't. Maybe they're leading up to that. Maybe when we get to Critters 4, and that's going to be like the big end of this series. I know there's more after that, but I would imagine that was their original plan. If Critters 4 is like the big end of the series, then maybe there is going to be a bit more of a. That's the reason why this one was so cheaply done. Maybe because they were saving money for the budget in that one. I don't really know. But fingers crossed. Like I said, it won't be till next Halloween I'll watch it, but at least I've got something to look forward to till next Halloween. Then I'll get to sort of the last one. But yeah, definitely. If you've been following my Critters reviews, watch this one. Give this one a go. It's way better than the second movie, and I feel like people will enjoy it a lot more. I know I did. I know I had a lot more fun. I actually had many sort of sort of giggles and laughs. That was just great. It was like, this is what you watch Critters for. Like, I am definitely a Critters fan, and Critters now is basically a staple of this podcast. Really, it's like, it's never really a secret that Luke is going to cover Critters for Halloween. I have done for the past 3 years now. So. And I think there's 5 or 6 of them, so it's going to be a long thing. So I'm kind of looking forward to it, to be honest. I know I was a little bit let down with the second one, but my spirit's been brought back up with this one. So I'm feeling very positive about what comes with Critters 4, especially how this one ended and how it says to be continued. Like, if I was watching this back in the 90s and I got this from Blockbuster, I'd be very excited to ask, like, when does the next one come out? Like, the next time you get Critters 4 into the shop, let me know, give me a phone call, and I'll come down and pick it up and I'll rent it, because it would definitely get me hyped and excited to watch the next one, which you can't say a lot about Critters 2, to be honest. So yeah, that is my thoughts. I want to do a bit of trivia before we end. So trivia, where did I put it? Right. There it is. So, not a lot in the way of trivia, to be honest, because I already mentioned most of it in the introduction. But Terrence Mann, so he plays Ugg. His appearance as Ugg is credited in the movie's end credits before he has even appeared in the movie, which I did notice that. He only makes a short appearance in a scene running during the end credits, which ties into the actions of the movie with the sequel, Critters 4, which comes out a year later in 1992. Leonardo DiCaprio has commented on this film, stating, "I admit I've done a few lousy roles in the beginning of my career, like my role in Critters 3, but at that age, you'll do anything for attention. To be honest, I don't think this is a lousy role. I'm not watching this and thinking, bloody hell, he's really phoned it in, or bloody hell, Leo's terrible in this. Like, no, I'm watching and thinking, he actually does a pretty good job here, to be honest. And again, I know hindsight being what it is, it's currently 2025. We all know how good Leonardo DiCaprio is. But you just watch it and you think, bloody hell, Leo does really, really good here. Like, you can tell that he was going to be a rising star. And obviously, he was. So yeah, if I was ever to meet Leo, probably never going to happen. But if I ever get the chance to sit down and interview Leonardo DiCaprio, or at least talk to him, I know a lot of people would probably want to talk to him about Titanic, but generally I'd want to ask him about his time doing Critters 3, because he's really good in this, to be honest. He's generally a surprise. Like, I was thinking, oh, we go, yeah, young Leo, he's young, he's not going to be great, but generally really good, which is another link to another bit of trivia for you, to Goosebumps. So Ryan Gosling, I think one of his first roles was actually in a Goosebumps episode, to be honest. So that's a bit of trivia for you there. And that's it, really. So there's not a lot of trivia. Like I said, it was kind of hard to find anything on the production notes for this movie. So finding anything trivia-wise is just as difficult, to tell you the truth. But I've had a lot of fun and I've enjoyed myself, and I hope you have too. What is coming next for Halloween? Well, I don't really know what to say, really. I'm trying to think of a way that I can give you an idea without giving spoilers away. What I will say, it's set at night. It's very creepy, very eerie. There's parasites. There's potential undead, maybe. Not really sure yet. I haven't actually watched the movie as recording this yet. I'm just going off what the blurb says. There's teenagers. Yeah, I think that's about it, really. That's all you're getting from me. So you're going to have to find out. You're going to keep your eye out on Twitter at HowdyBeans_pod. When I release it a few days from now, usually on a Wednesday, and you'll find out then. But also, in the meantime, please do check out other episodes that I've done, other Halloween stuff I've done. If you're jumping right here with Critters 3 and you haven't listened to my review of Critters 1 and 2, please do go back and check them out. Had an absolute ball with those ones, and it'd be interesting to sort of go back and check them out if you haven't. Also, again, by all means, check out the podcast on YouTube. If you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Rate the podcast on Spotify. Follow me on TikTok at Howdy Beans, the Howdy Beans podcast. And yeah, that's about everything. So hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're having a wonderful beginning of your spooky season. And I can't wait to see you all next week for the next one. So until then, bye-bye.